So this is going to be a deep dive into a movie that I haven't visited in a long time. And I think now with the new movie coming out, I think it's a good time to revisit or return to Silent Hill.
Rose, come on! Rose, hurry! It's coming!
I've never been a fan of the game's franchise. Hell, I never even played a single Silent Hill until recently-ish. I went in knowing absolutely nothing, like clicking on skip recap for an episode I never actually watched. And at least these days, it's almost impossible to avoid spoilers, so if you go into Reddit or Facebook, people just post spoilers everywhere. Speaking of spoilers, I will be doing a full rundown of this movie, so there will be spoilers. So when it came to Silent Hill, I just knew it was a scary game on PlayStation 1. I didn't even know that the white fog was part of the gameplay, because back then, most games had that effect to save on processing power of the console, like Superman and whatever. Back then, I'd be staying away from all the scary games like Resident Evil, Fatal Frame, and at least I knew that Resident Evil had zombies and Fatal Frame was about taking pictures of ghosts. Silent Hill, I literally had no idea, besides the one picture on the box with some kind of like pterodactyl creature, so it could have easily been a game about dinosaurs for all I knew. Even though I didn't have the balls to play horror movies back then, I loved watching scary movies since I was like 6 or something, because at least you can close your eyes and the movie will just keep going, like a roller coaster. So I decided to give Silent Hill, the movie, 2006, a chance. And the memory of it stayed in my head forever. I watched it back in 2006, or maybe 2007, but what I do remember is the white fog, the eerie sounds of the sirens, the mystery, the nurses, and of course, Pyramid Head. The cinematography, back then I was still discovering myself as a director or cinematographer, and I really did appreciate it. Watching this movie at a young age really made me also put up my standards much higher than I feel like most people normally would have. Because watching this movie, I felt like I saw a whole kind of different cinematography that you would normally not see in these kinds of movies based on games or big blockbuster kind of movies. There was a lot of art and passion that went into this one. I remember where it could have just been done so much more poorly. But to be fair, I didn't actually watch the other movies, I'm just going on based on what they're being scored out of. So maybe I'll give those a chance in the future. And without looking it up, I can tell you that Christoph Gans was a director, and he didn't do much else after this, until this new movie. Trust me, I've been waiting. Which leads me to the main reason of making this video. As I mentioned, there have been other Silent Hill movies, but now we have the newest Silent Hill, which is less of a return to Silent Hill, but more of a return to Christoph Gans' Silent Hill. And in anticipation of it coming out in a few days, I wanted to remind myself with not only the story, since it's a direct sequel, a confirmation really if I love this movie as much as I remember. Just to start off with some trivia, Christopher Gans was a huge fan of the series, and was begging to make this movie. Apparently he was asking Konami 5 years to make this movie, so you will know he will give it his all and do it with justice. Which, after a rewatch, I believe he does. The movie opens with what we assume is the main character, and seems like she's looking for her daughter named Sharon! Just to quickly pause here, but I really like how this movie starts, with that sense of panic. I feel other movies would show a normal family having dinner at the dinner table and talking about something unrelated, or foreshadowing some weak exposition, or even a tease of what's to come, how they kind of like tease you for something that's going to happen later in the movie but then go back. But no, this movie just starts by yelling in your face, wasting no time. Also, while we're paused here, I also want to mention how already the differences to the game and the movie are clear, since the main character in the movie is female, but in the game you control Harry, a male character. Also fun to note, but the name of the daughter in the first game is Cheryl. So, little cameo there. After yelling her name more times than a Pokemon in a boss fight, we find standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down where we get our first semi-jump scare. I call it a jump scare because it's actually a jump scare as opposed to jump startles. Because most of the time, when you say jump scare, people are actually just meaning jump startles. Anyway, we get a little glimpse of what Sharon sees, and just before she's about to jump or fall, the mom jumps to save her, and that's when we find out what a big gamer she is. Damn, that game must be really good, huh? Real quick, I just want to mention that this shot was actually taken in my hometown, where I grew up in Hamilton, Canada, called the Devil's Punch Bowl. I didn't know that at the time, so it's kinda cool to see how connected I am with the movie myself, not to mention the cool and fitting sound name for this movie. Then we get that clear as day title screen. The piece that plays here is called Hope Drowns, on the official soundtrack for the movie, which, if you look for it, won't appear in any of the games. but instead was inspired from Silent Hill 2 game named Ordinary Vanity, which was remixed and reorchestrated to fit the movie, along with many other pieces with their own names but similar sounds. Basically all the music and the sounds are borrowed from the games, which I thought would be more fan service, but apparently it didn't seem to work out that way. It's kind of one of those situations where like you're a fan of the book, but then the movie comes out and lots of little pieces and details are missing, but people that never read the book and watched the movie actually think it's pretty good. But the people that read the book, they know all these details and backstory and all that kind of stuff, so I think it might be one of those kind of situations in my opinion. So anyway, now we see they're planning a trip to Silent Hill, which the kid doesn't even remember doing. I was worried about the scene because it felt a little cringe, but at least it shows a little time with the kid. Spoilers, we won't see much of them together after this. Then we see Sean Bean do a little 2005 internet research, instead of today's AI results popping up at the top. Like if you ask what's Silent Hill, it might just tell you it's like a quiet elevation. What a time. Anyway, somehow, when typing in Silent Hill, there were no results for the game, and instead gets a result to a website of a guy that just posted up a bunch of ghost towns in the US, and for some reason Sean Bean believes what he sees right away. As our main woman protagonist is filling up gas, she noticed Sharon has been pretty busy with drawing concept art for the next Silent Hill game, but then when asked about it, she doesn't even remember doing it. She cries and inadvertently calls the attention of a random policewoman, who feels like she should come to the aid of a crying child. The mom doesn't even care though, as the cop makes a beeline right to the car. I always thought it was weird that she didn't even care to check behind, but you can almost call this foreshadowing because throughout the movie, she sucks at looking behind her. So when the cop tries to talk to Sharon, she just lets her know she can speak English.
Don't talk to strangers.
Good girl.
Things get real though, when we hear the register lady or counter girl, whatever she's called, the register lady. She's acting weird by the mere mention of the name Silent Hill, and how even roads are scared to go there. When she tries to pay for some gas, she finds out her husband cut off the credit cards because of the scary websites. When the mom gets back to the car, the cop is still there, so she also lets her know she's American, and the cop lets her go. But maybe her accent was off, so the cop makes a note of her license plate and decides to pull them over. Maybe she had some pot in the car or something, so she ends up speeding off, following a road that leads to Silent Hill.
Road don't go through no more.
Road don't go through no more.
After speeding through the gates, the radio starts to glitch out, distracting her from the road, where a little girl is crossing without even checking both sides. Of course, our protagonist swerves last minute and hits her head so hard you would think she died. Now normally this is kind of a trope that we see in tons of horror movies, like the careless mom that spilled coffee on her lap, or the daughter could have been doing something that was distracting. But here, we actually have multiple things going on. We got speeding, fleeing from the cops, the radio glitching out, and right here I also have to just mention the sound design. It's great in this movie. How it actually makes a frequency to the audience to actually have that uncomfortable feeling. Plug your ears if you don't want to hear how it sounds in 3, 2, 1. So I felt this crash was actually warranted, and I didn't feel like thinking how it was just a stupid idiot character. The mom wakes up and realizes she slept for way too long.
What's this? There's white things in the air.
But most importantly, her runaway daughter, who always runs away, has run away again. She goes outside to realize that that's not snow, but hey, at least she made it to Silent Hill. It wasn't that hard after all. The town Silent Hill was shot in Brantford, which is about an hour away from Toronto. It was actually dressed from the proverbial head to toe with all kinds of makeup.
Some of the businesses had closed out. They were going through some renovations, so a lot of sections of the whole street had closed down because they were going to renovate it.
As she walks through the ominous white fog and empty city and empty rooms, she spins around in one spot long enough and finds what is probably... Just a quick moment here to appreciate the cinematography and great use of camera angles and cranes, all accompanied with this very fitting music that has this mix of industrial complex feeling that was composed originally from Akira Yamaoka, which was the same composer from the original soundtrack of the game. As she chases her runaway daughter in some creepy alley, these eerie sirens start to go off. It's the same kind of sirens that you would hear when there's an air raid. I actually didn't know this, so whenever I heard those sirens, I always thought of this movie. This movie has scarred me for years. I love how the special effects team was so on the nose with the subtle change, because if you've seen the movie before, you know what's happening. So when you watch it again, you just see the ending of the transformation. And if that doesn't make much sense, I'll come back and remind you about it. So she goes deeper to explore these dark tunnels, and crane shots just do incredible work once again. Could have been a simple shot of panning angle, but no. Christoph Gans decided to follow the movement going from down to up, staying on her, and then back down when she turned around while twisting the shot, all to give that uneasy feeling. More directors should learn from this kind of movement. Take notes, Kenneth Branagh. This is a direct reference to the original game, with how the camera moves and everything, so I'm glad to see it was replicated so faithfully here.
Christoph, on one hand, remained profoundly true to the source material. We would, more than anything, study how the camera moved as it travels through the game.
Also, I just have to make a quick note on how long Rose is putting her hand over that flame. I mean, that's a record. Have you tried doing that yourself? Anyway, as I was saying, she goes down to explore these dark, mysterious tunnels, and she runs into a garbage can. Now, ironically enough, after praising the beautiful camera work, here the camera doesn't do it justice, as it seems a little slapsticky, where it's like, yeah, obviously she ran into the garbage can. Anyway, she spots what she thinks is her daughter, jumping into a jump startle. Now this is less of a jump startle for the audience, and more for the character, because the shot builds up from seeing the blood and the gore on the floor, where we already got ready, so the startling doesn't work here, since it's not so sudden and it builds up to it. So if anything, it would fittingly be a jump scare for us, not a jump startle. The mystery subtly unfolds a little more, where we see the body is wearing some kind of mask, and things get extra weird, if they weren't weird enough. I'm not even halfway. To know the person strung up like that is still alive? While trying to get a good look, something is creeping up behind her. When she turns around, we get our first look at our first creature in this movie. This was always a little weird to me, because it seems like a tallish kind of being. But as she's running away, we see that the same figure, but super small, almost like a baby. Very weird perspectives. I don't know who to blame here, if it was a CGI department or what. But anyway, I say baby-like more because of the weird baby sounds they're making. All very creepy, so I'm gonna let it go. So they're trying to escape, but we see a field of these weird baby things coming all around and almost surrounding her. She finds a random door to pry open, and on the other side, she ends up falling and hits her head. Again. But at least she didn't take a nap this time, so I'm glad it didn't cut to black like in the game. Anyway, she's crawling away as they all try to catch up to her, and here I wonder if someone is coming to help her or to save her, maybe the husband or the cop from earlier, but nope. It was the pure plot armor to save the day this time. And first time watching, I felt this was a bit annoying, but lore-wise, it actually makes sense, so keep watching. What really annoys me with movies like this is how much they work with the practical effects, but then in the final cut, they use CGI. Yes, I know that the practical costume was used in other parts of the movie, but to me, it's kind of an insult to the makeup artists and the performer just to have their work cut out from the movie. And I mean, I can't keep mentioning it, or maybe I can, it's my video, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. But the sound design is so strong here, with the weird screaming babies, the screeching, some snarling even. And when she hits her head, we hear that high-pitched, infamous ringing sound you hear when a grenade goes off or something like that. The scene ends with them just disintegrating. Maybe Thanos snapped his fingers, or maybe she did a... And that's when she falls back to sleep. Because it does happen like that in the game. And once again, the visual effects artists stick to that subtlety that we will talk about later, while keeping the mystery alive. Waking up on a cold floor with Ring of Fire playing in the background. That's how I used to wake up. Which, of course, it's a great pick for a song in this case. And I went down, 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 and the ring went And quick note, this was actually the only song in the whole movie that wasn't directly from the Silent Hill games. Waking up, confused and scared, she runs through the city, probably back to her car to book it out of there. But she's obviously totally lost, because eventually she runs into a cliff. She's approached by an old lady who also lost her daughter, and everyone else, so she's not so special. The lady tells her that her daughter was tortured, probably trying to one-up her. When Rose shows the picture of her daughter, the lady tries to steal it, as she claims that that's her daughter. And luckily Rose is able to overpower this old lady and make her escape. And I keep calling her old lady, but that's just how she seems like. Really, she's played by a relatively younger woman, Deborah Kara Unger, who really likes doing these kinds of horror movies. Christoph Gans thought she was perfect for the role, but thought she would even slap him when even asked about it. But on the contrary,
It's surprising to me that I like her so much. I love going to work every morning.
and honestly, she does a great job with it. She seemed like she had so much fun doing it. Deborah even did another Silent Hill, probably because she just enjoyed it so much. Rose finds her way back to the car to find herself a clue. She starts to collect them all as if they're now collectibles. She tries to start the car and call Sean Bean, but like in all other horror tropes, neither work. For a third time, she gets snuck up from behind, but this time, it's from a familiar character. Wow, talk about dedication for capturing a perp. She pulls her out of the car and goes on the radio referring to herself as Bennett. So, fun fact here, Sybil Bennett is actually one of the main characters in the original Silent Hill games. Of course, the movie took many liberties to change things up, and events are completely different. But the character seems true, keeping to her tough ways and being able to stay calm during some really fucked up situations. Also, this actress you might seem familiar. If you watched The Walking Dead, she plays Andrea. And I'm mostly saying this because subconsciously, I might actually be saying Andrea during this recording. I was a big fan of the Walking Dead series, so it's pretty cool to kind of see her in this after so many years before. While handcuffing her, Rose tries to tell her something weird is going on, but notices that she's bleeding. Bennett says she crashed too, so they have to walk to the station. As they walk, you can subtly see the crash bike in the foreground, because if things weren't weird enough, the way they came from is completely destroyed. Still, Bennett must be into some weird shit, because this still wasn't weird enough for her.
Now do you see what I'm talking about?
No.
In the distance, they see a figure moving that looks like a man stuck in a giant condom.
It looked like a big rubber condom.
But the scene builds up with the radio malfunctioning once again, and since this one doesn't confirm they can speak English, she decides to use lethal force, but not before getting puked on with some kind of weird burning acid. Most creatures in this movie are direct references from the game, but this guy is based off the creature called Lying Creature. So there was a deleted scene, which is supposed to be the first creature that they encounter in Silent Hill 2 the game, but it was removed due to pacing and clarity. More on that later. Rose takes the chance to run away handcuffed, figuring she has a better chance this way. And apparently so, since she watched a lot of Jackie Chan movies or something, since she was able to slip out of the cuffs in front of her with barely any issue.
Actually, it's gonna be super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
Looking at a map, she finds Midwich School, which she's reminded of from the drawings from earlier, which is really her only clue. After some great cinematography to the tune of some more Akira Yamaoka, she finds her way. She equips herself with a flashlight, a ring of keys, and starts reading through a bunch of lore that people usually skip through. Now jump to Sean Bean trying to get to Silent Hill himself, with the shopkeep giving him some very vague directions and a little caution.
Breathe enough of them fumes? Oh, bound to kill you.
He goes on his way and realizes he got a missed call. He listens to the message, but almost none of it is comprehensible, except...
Please, hurry.
He gets stopped at a police crossing, and they inform him that there was a crash, but the car was empty. There was also an accident with their deputy that is also missing from their bike. Now I noticed how the cop assured Sean Bean when he said, "We'll find your wife and daughter," but Sean Bean never mentioned the daughter.
I'm looking for my wife, sir. This man's wife was driving the Jeep. I'm trying to find my wife. She's probably out there looking for your wife and your daughter.
Thomas kindly says he'll help to take him to Silent Hill. Surprisingly, they're rolling through Silent Hill, but it's not snowing. Thomas is giving his exposition of having lived in Silent Hill, but he starts to tell us some more of the story behind what happened. There was some kind of great fire, and it killed everyone in the city, or town. He adds that most people were good, but not everyone, and some deserved it. Still slowly exploring, reading all the lore she can, she gets distracted with a noise. And after everything she's seen, you think she would run in the opposite direction. But Rose runs directly toward it. I mean, I guess she's still looking for her daughter after all, but last time we saw her, she made her run into a trap. But anyway. She sees a canary in a cage and decides that's her limit. But wait, Rose, that canary's alive. That's a good thing. She's trying to find somewhere to hide, but she sees a hopscotch and just couldn't help it. Seriously, I do have to say all the scenes with her running away or exploring are just shot so masterfully. The way it's shot with the angles, the movement, and the light they chose to light the scenes. Once again, I have to give huge props to the set crew. They used a real school, but also did a lot of modifying. They had to dress it up in 3 different ways, which I will talk about later. Spoilers. But for now, I just want to emphasize how much love went into these sets. So she comes across a random classroom where she randomly passes by and notices some handprints and decides to inspect further. She sees the name and gets some kind of flashback, but I don't know what perspective this is or how we're even seeing it. But anyway, the kids are bullying this one kid, repeating. We get interrupted with our first semi-jump startle. At 39 minutes and 46 seconds. More running, more great music. There is a very interesting shot that looks like a speed up zoom or something, but it's very effective, where I think other directors would either use like a cut or something. It leads to a bathroom where she's trying to hide. As Rose opens the door one by one, even looking under, she follows the crying sounds until she opens the door to another jump startle. A body so twisted and mangled, I feel like it's probably best to blur this actually, or even mosaic it. Apparently Rose has more balls than me, because I definitely wouldn't go closer to that thing. Somehow, she understands the vague instructions on the wall, and sticks her fingers in its mouth and pulls out some kind of green thing. Good thing she didn't try reaching in the toilet first. As she goes in the hallway, she sees some figures there wearing masks. She decides to go back in the bathroom and lock herself in with the keys that she found from earlier. They start to kick at the door and just grunt. But before they can make much of a dent, their canary starts going crazy. Immediately they stop, pick up the cage, and GTFO. A few moments later, we hear the same eerie siren.
Oh, chills. Literal chills.
And this time, we actually see what's happening thanks to her trusty, super strong flashlight. The walls start changing, material is melting off, walls become moldy with tiles falling. Such a great effect, and used so well too, due to the great choice of lighting. Not too bright and not too dark. And once again, the sound design of the walls peeling off, the tiles hitting the floors. This transition is an invention of the movies actually, as changing worlds was in all the other games, but seeing it visually change was the first time in this movie. The first game that actually featured the visual change was in Silent Hill Origins, which was made in 2007, 1 year after the release of this movie. This is what I was talking about, the first time we see the ends and the beginning of the transformation, since now that we have a light source we can see it. But Rose, you can't be too distracted, since now we hear some kind of weirder noises coming from the bathroom stall. And out comes Mr. Mosaic. But I think now it's okay to show this. Also, fun fact, in the whole movie, this is the only creature that's the movie's original creation. All the other creatures are from the games, but mostly the second game actually. And because he's blindfolded, he's taking his sweet time, and he needs to use the wall as reference. But poor guy, the walls are changing. Actually, not really poor guy, because we'll see what happens with him later, and it's actually not even worth it to call him poor guy. With a big production and name like Silent Hill, you can't just add creatures nilly-willy. But it seems like Akira Yamaoka, yes, the composer, approved of the design and even asked permission to use it for future games. She runs down the changed twisted halls to find the guys from earlier that are having their own issues. And here we see a little bit more of a purpose than just decorating the walls. It seems like he can grow some kind of parasites, and out come little weird bugs that seem to do his bidding. In Silent Hill lore, they're called creepers, that make their first appearance in the first game. In the game, they just kind of pop out. It doesn't seem like there's any origin of them, so it seems like this creature is a bit of a reveal, kind of like the equivalent of the Queen Alien in Aliens. As she's running away with basically like her head cut off or something, we see a similar sight with the fiery tunnel from the beginning of the movie. And there sits her daughter making more of her concept art. But apparently, it was really bad because Rose just yeets out of there. Also, just a quick look back here, but it seems like Rose is totally trapped here, banging on the fence. But then after the cut, we see that there's an obvious hole there. Kinda weird. Did she make the hole for her? We get a quick Sean Bean exploring the hallways with his mask on, looking for his wife and daughter. Rose slowly waking up from her daze, and she's really gotta stop hitting her head like that. She starts to crawl away, and this is when we see our first instance of Pyramid Head. Now, in my opinion, I feel like an introduction to such an iconic character was so anticlimactic. Not sure if that's the best word, but I mean, he just kind of walks in. I felt like he deserves much more of an intro, like building up with the sounds, since the sound design has been so great so far. maybe like a shadow or something, or even to build up to him, but no, he just kind of walks into frame with a jump scare sound effect. Probably one of the worst parts of the movie. Anyway, Pyramid Head just kind of stumbles in, like I said, with his little friend surrounding him. Now, I do have to give credit where it's due, because the stumbling and the movement was done by the same actor, Roberto Campanella, who plays the same barbed wire man in the bathroom. And he's actually a dancer, so he can achieve these rhythmic, creepy movements. But poor guy, the helmet he wore apparently weighed 12 pounds, or 5.4 kilograms, and couldn't see in front of him, only his feet. As she runs down this corridor, we cut to Sean Bean walking down the exact same spot, and it seems like they have the same sense of being able to feel each other.
I felt her perfume.
Tom is just chalking it up to be Sean Bean being delusional because he's not wearing his mask.
Breathe enough of them fumes, bound to kill you.
He just ignores it and tells him to put on his mask. Rose is tired of running, and it just seems like she's just given up. But heroically, we see Bennett from earlier come in the perfect time and use her super strength to drag her across to safety into this room. As they get in, shut the door behind them, one little bugger does make it through, so we can get a look at how they look, and some might consider it kinda cute. Aww. Anyway, they bar the door somehow, and Bennett says how she's down to 1 mag.
Last mag.
Finally, Bennett takes off the cuffs that have been handicapping our hero this whole time. Now this might have been a good time to introduce Pyramid Head. For his long sword going through the door with like a really creepy sound, and his arm, but anyway, I digress. She shoots a bunch of her bullets into the door, and at least one of them hitting his arm.
Last mag.
And luckily, they stalled enough for everything to shift back to happy white snowland once again.
That was real. What the fuck is going on?
Rose shows Bennett what she found in the mouth of that barbed-wired man and says that her daughter is here. She basically figures since she was led here by the little ghost girl, she's already accepted that in the happy white snow times that she's being led clues to find her daughter. Just hopefully she can crack the code. Well, that wasn't so hard. Walking through the empty city, they hear cries of someone new. Turns out that new person is yet another woman. Damn, this place is really full of women, isn't it?
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Turns out she's stoning the lady because she's accusing her of being a witch. But when the old lady gets up, she's just reciting some kind of Bible verse
Without a shepherd, shepherd without a flock.
and flees away. Her name is Anna, and she too lost her daughter. She says there are many out there, and she needs to take food back to them. Rose then takes her only weapon and asks what the weird symbol on the floor is. Rose saw it before at school as well, and Anna says it's a symbol of their group's faith. While they're talking, Bennett explores and finds another clue. There's a piece of paper where all the other shells are empty, so it seems a little obvious to kind of look, I guess, right? Some more concept art by Sharon.
We gotta go to room 111.
We cut back to Sean Bean where he's trying to get to the bottom of it.
What really happened up here?
Just let it rest in peace.
Even the archives receptionist tells him over the phone it's confidential. That's not good enough, so he breaks into the actual archives building after dark and eventually finds her daughter in the files. And wait, 1974? That must make her like 40 years old. But turns out she was adopted, and Sean Bean starts calling the orphanage.
Can you give me that address?
Back in Silent Hill, the gang is exploring the halls, looking for room 111, but realizing
There's no room 111.
instead they come across a mural on the wall, and Anna shows off her art knowledge. She says it's called the First Burning, where long ago, they burned accused witches to prevent an apocalypse. The painting looked similar to her daughter's drawing, and thought it felt a little plagiarism. So she decides to do a little art vandalism, but turns out the missing door is right behind it. Inside, they find a hole that conveniently leads to another building with the hole directly across. They all take turns jumping across, but somehow when Rose jumps, she drops her knife. As usual, Rose looking for another clue, she ends up running into the little ghost girl once again, and she decides once again to blindly follow her. That kid is really getting her into some situations, huh? Now, I just have to pause here because this is the third time that we see this little girl that's bringing her into more trouble, and she just keeps doing it. I know she's trying to find her daughter, but I mean just how she blindly chases her in this weird world. It feels more and more like a clumsy trope. And this is why I actually wanted to do these reviews, because I wanted to see like, hey, was the movie as good as I remember it when I originally watched it? But anyway, I'm bringing this up because it really started to bug me, even though I get it, and I know it's not the worst thing, but anyway. Rose follows her and basically corners her at this point. The little girl is wearing that same uniform from school, and she's crying in a corner. Rose goes across this weird, dangerous chasm. The look on Rada's face here is genuine, as she's actually jumping across this big chasm.
She wanted to see the stunt double, how the stunt double would do it, and then she just simply wanted to do it.
Of course she has wires, but still there's that sense of balance to make sure to achieve the shot correctly.
For me, it was quite exciting because I'd never done it before.
And when she approaches her, we hear that iconic piece again, that is used so perfectly and it feels so right. It has that very playful, kid calming kind of aura to it, which is what we should be feeling, since even when we almost expect a jump scare or even a jump startle, she just slowly turns around, looking at her, but instead to reveal that it's the same face as her daughter's. And at this point, Rose knows that it's not her daughter. The twin girl asks for a hug, but good thing she hesitated because, watch out, her arms are on fire. But damn it was just a dream. So Andrea comes, and I'm mostly saying this because subconsciously, I might actually be saying Andrea during this recording. So Andrea comes and passes her some kind of hose she can uncharted her way back to safety. Rose explains to her that she saw Alessa, but Anna interrupts and pulls a Harry Potter.
Alessa.
We don't say her name.
We do not speak his name.
She kneels down and Bennett notices it's another one of those symbols. Then we get our third jump startle of the movie. Anna is really scared of birds, so she books it. But good thing too, as that creepy siren comes on soon after. She claims that the church isn't far, and to just follow her. Rose recognizes the church in the concept art from before, and figures it's just another clue. So she trusts her enough. I mean, what else is she gonna do, honestly? As she's stuck in a trance, other survivors come running out of the mist and towards the church. Everyone starts running inside, but Alessa's mom is standing at the steps speaking more lovely poetry. Bennett tries to bring her inside, but she refuses, telling her that they're liars. Anna throws a bottle at her and pulls a Jerry Springer and says, "No, you're a liar." Rose tells her that she found her daughter, who looks just like her. So she asks, "What does she want from me?" After a little more poetry without answering the question, the world starts to go dark and changes right before their eyes once again. The old poet woman seems to have a little more power than we thought, because she was able to summon a pyramid head right behind. Anna foolishly stayed behind to throw one more rock, but that was definitely the last rock that she would throw. Pyramid head breathing like Darth Vader. I know, I'm sorry Robbie, I know that thing is heavy. He carries her up the steps, and apparently wasn't a fan of her fashion, so he tears it right off her. I guess he thought that the shoes were okay though. Anyway, he skins her so fast it would make the predator jealous, and the pair quickly get inside the church, not before getting a little blood spilled on them first. Getting safely inside, the survivors point and do what they did best in the 16th century.
Witches!
As they're getting stormed, Bennett fires one round in the air, which seems to call their leader. Now, if you know anything about guns, you will see that the last round in that chamber has been used. Also take note, as she doesn't seem to reload either.
Last mag.
One claims how they fed Anna to the fiend, but the leader says it wasn't their fault. Anyway, time to pray. She seems so nice. At first it seemed a little unorthodox,
And they were judged according to their deeds.
but then it started to really just get passive-aggressive.
And anyone's name not found written in the book of life, they will be thrown into the lake of fire.
Juxtapositionally, we cut to some kids doing a real prayer, showing them how it's done.
I pray the Lord my soul to take.
Sean Bean is asking about the kid they adopted, but the nun says they can't give out information, just like before. The information doesn't match at all though. However, it seems like the nun knows something. Sean Bean is obviously tired going from place to place, so he gives her a little shake until the stalker policeman Thomas comes in to break it up. Thomas says he knew that girl, the one in the file. He says the fire at the Silent Hill killed her, not before some fanatics did undisclosed things to her. Thomas gives two options, to go to jail or go home. Before he can even answer the rhetorical question, Thomas takes off his gloves to show his hands, which reveal he might have been involved in the fires, or he liked to play with a lot of glue. Back at the church, she explains to the leader that she lost her little girl. The leader asks if she's religious because faith keeps the darkness at bay. Rose doesn't give her a straight answer, but instead tells her to use their religion to find her daughter, if the faith does actually keep the darkness at bay. The leader tells her about this demon, and that no one ever comes back trying to look for her. Since Rose knows she has heavy plot armor already, she decides to just go for it, and Bennett will join her too. A little appreciation of the set once again, since there's so much love that went into each set piece.
We were dealing with 106 different sets and locations in the film. For a horror film, I think it's maybe the first time it happened.
And so much detail goes into each one. For example, the mural behind here, it was actually painted after Deborah's face, which she plays the role of Alyssa's mother. So they can have that kind of ancestry look to make it believable. Now, this is kind of weird since some of them dress up in this outfit, while the leader and our heroes go in normal clothing. They get to a hospital where she tells her to memorize this map. Now, I feel like this is a little nod to the game, since in the game, they didn't actually have a traditional map either, since the game relied a lot on navigational stress. She points to the room where the demon lives, but warns her that the demon can take shape of something else, like a child. So use the force, use your faith. She says goodbye, since she doesn't expect to see her return. Rose is actually taking her time to memorize the map. Throughout the movie, Rose has displayed a good sense of memory, always piecing clues together from memory, so being able to memorize this map doesn't come out of nowhere, and it's actually believable for this character. Before leaving, one of the men in the suits give her a light, warning her that they're attracted to the light, and it's so damn dark that you need to use it. Yeah, what a dilemma. So just as she's about to go down, the leader picked up the locket from earlier, but it accidentally opens and reveals the face of her daughter, which she knows is actually the face of the demon. She freaks out and accuses her of being a witch and tries to stop her at that point. And it was going so well. Anyway, Rose makes it to the elevator while Bennett is blocking their way. They almost stop her, but Bennett actually pulls a murder on one of the guys and releases the bar holding the doors open.
So every time I was hitting them, I was scraping up my arm.
As soon as the doors close, the elevator magically lights up and starts going down. Bennett points the gun at the leader, and when she's about to shoot, we hear the infamous but her face shows she already knew it was empty. It's not about shooting them in the face.
It's about sending a message.
They start beating her up so bad, we start to hear meat and bones break. Damn, how noble of her to take one like that. Rose goes down on a ridiculously long elevator shaft. And right to work, she starts putting that memory to use. I know it's been a little bit, but I just want to stop here and just kind of appreciate the shots and the cinematography of everything. Going from one place to another, almost giving that viewer that navigational stress that I was talking about. So she keeps running and running into well, that would have been a lot scarier if the camera felt more claustrophobic, because it gives the jump startle to Rose, but it doesn't work for us. So she does exactly what the guy in the suit told her not to do.
They'll be drawn to the light.
All to have a better look, I guess? And of course, this disturbs them. They were sleeping so nicely. So real quick, this scared the hell out of me when I first saw it. Fun fact here, all of the nurses were actually played by dancers, so they could have the choreography to match. They had that little sense of that hive mind appearance to it. But to achieve this effect, they were actually filmed going backwards and sped up in editing to create that creepy movements they do. Stop pointing the flashlight at them. Okay. Thank you. Oh no. Please don't do what I think you're gonna do. Oh, you're doing it, you're doing it. Oh, you're doing it, you're doing it. I swear, the first time I watched this, I tensed up so much I probably subconsciously was doing my first Kegel. I watched Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, and the only scene that really scared me was this exact scene right here, walking through a bunch of sleeping zombies. However, one of them was able to see through it, starting to swipe away, hitting the other nurses, but luckily they're nurses, so they can tend to their injuries, right? Oh, a band-aid's not gonna help that one. Rose luckily gets through and lays the light on the floor, and she runs to the door where the demon is. She gets greeted with a congratulations, and
thank you so much for playing my game.
But no, it's not as easy as that. Alyssa, or Sharon, starts talking and giving a big exposition dump. Honestly, I forgot about this whole part, but I'm gonna summarize it as best as I can so I don't have to sit through it again. Now, before I get into this, I just want to remind everyone that this is based off a video game, and this particular video game does have a lot of actual themes that can be triggering for some people. So if you're sensitive about that, I do have to mention that it does deal with violent sexual nature. Right? You've been warned. The voice talks about Alyssa, saying how the parents told her she was bad and she didn't have a father like all the other girls. And when she tried to run away for safety in the bathroom, there was that janitor there. A little familiar. And he wasn't friendly even when he was alive, doing the thing that I warned you about. Her mom came to pick her up, but it didn't help. There we see the leader as the teacher, actually. And turns out she's the sister of Alyssa's mom. They take Alyssa to the hotel from earlier, at which point the voice congratulates her for finding all the clues. Because you see, the game was very heavy on puzzle solving and everything like that, so that's why it was very puzzle focused. So when they drag her to that 111 room from before, it's also revealed that the mom was one of them wearing the masks, being kind of a follower. Inside the room, we see everyone gathered to witness the cleansing of the sin, but this goes a bit beyond confessing in one of those booths. Instead, they seem to tie her up in chains and put her on a grill. But seems like she screams so much that the chains break apart, or something, and she tips over the fire pit, which begins burning the room, along with the people inside, talking about instant karma. Then we see Thomas, the cop from earlier. Either he barely aged or he always looked like he was 50. But we see how he got his scars.
I don't know how I got these scars.
So they bring Alyssa to the hospital where she's completely burnt up, and I'm surprised she's even alive at this point. The voice explains how she was so tormented and filled with hate that it slowly manifested an evil version of her. We see a nurse in red giving a little peek inside, and then we see how she changes the world around her. This whole segment is shown in a projector kind of style, or old film, to keep that theme of the 1970s, instead of just making a simple sepia filter or something. So it really adds to the scene, as well as having that very vintage feel, and because of that, a very creepy feel, as not everything is clear for what's going on. So it's almost scarier when you just kind of use your imagination to fill in the gaps. We come back to the present with Rose, and we see a nurse crying in the corner. Seemed like the one from before. They seem to play a little ring around the rosy, but Rose gets distracted and gets a peek inside to see the burned remains of Alyssa. The evil Alyssa comes out and says that the burned girl in there is the only goodness left in her. And Sharon isn't actually Rose's child, but it's actually Alyssa's? So from what I understand is going on here is basically Alyssa has manifested the evil version, but also a good version of herself, since her real body is completely burned up like that. Kind of like a born again kind of thing, but the point was to protect the good version, so the good version was sent out to the orphanage outside of Silent Hill, and the evil ones stayed behind to punish the ones that tormented the real Alyssa. But after 30 years, she's tired of it. I haven't talked too much about the actors here, but I do have to bring up the fact that it's not easy finding a good child actor at this age, and I did think that she actually did a great job, all things considering. Jolene Ferland, the actress who played Alyssa, technically had to play 3 different versions of her, and to put so much trust into a child actor for these parts could really hurt the tension of the scenes, so a little quick props to that. Evil Alyssa tells Rose that she can't enter the church herself, but she can. And apparently, evil Alyssa just wants to tell everybody the truth. Then she goes for a big hug. But I've done some tight hugs before, but this is next level. By the way, the effect on this is so good that even to this day of 2026, it holds up for how effective this effect is. So yeah, it seems like she's just possessing her. I mentioned earlier how another Trojan Man scene was deleted, but something else I want to add since everything is revealed at this moment. So in the game, the fog world represents the manifestation of the character's trauma. The difference is in the game, the trauma is personal to the main characters. But in the movie, it's the trauma of Alyssa, as explained already. But having said that, all the manifestations are symbolic, even though they're not always consistent. Like the nurses, for example. In one game, they could mean that they're part of a cult and they're just following orders like a puppets. And another game where they're created to give James, the main character in Silent Hill 2, more anxiety, and another because the character hates hospitals, so it's more of a fear thing. But they are a recurring enemy through all of the games with different reasons, so for them to appear in this movie with their own reason is more than justified. Phew, that was a much longer one, and yes, I am wearing a different attire because this is a re-recording since I have so many updates. Then we see a quick cameo from the original game, Lisa Garland, whose eyes were burnt out because she looked at Alyssa's body. Then we get a nice Michael Bay or David Fincher camera movement through the window. So good. So the men in suits burst down the door and find the room to Alyssa where she's hiding, and it's never really explained in the movie, but probably because the mom knew the hiding spot. This is definitely a little clunky and not explained at all, and I feel like there was a deleted scene here, but I couldn't find any. After getting far away enough, Sean Bean gets dropped off outside and threatens Thomas.
I'll be back with people who know what they're doing.
But before he leaves, Thomas tells him a quick story about how someone kidnapped a kid. They end up throwing them down a shaft in Silent Hill, and the same deputy, Sybil Bennett, protected that kid for 3 days until they were both rescued.
We had a guy come up here 2 years ago. Snatched a little boy from a rest stop, dropped him into a mine vent. I never want to see anything like that again.
She really is a hero. And having said that, it seems like it calmed him down a bit. Back at the church, we see Sybil alive, but tied up and badly beaten up. Good Alyssa is scared, but Sybil, the badass she is, assures her that
It's okay. Your mom is coming.
the leader tells the crowd that anyone that helps the demon should be burned along with them. They lower Bennett's ladder down so she can feel the heat, which for some reason seems worse than lighting her on fire, since it's even slower. Now in the making of the movie, they actually lowered her stuck to a ladder, just like you see in the movie.
There were real spikes coming out of the ground with the fire, and all I thought was, one slip up and I'm impaled. So the terror and the fear and the heat was all very real.
This scene is pretty damn graphic, and done pretty well to see her skin slowly melt off and finally burn up. Could have been just putting her on a fire with effects and the audience knows that she's burning, or a cutaway with screaming, so yeah, wow. Poor Bennett, as she didn't deserve this at all. So long to a strong character. More ways than one. Just as Bennett said, Rose came back before they could give Alyssa a turn. As Rose comes down the aisle, she tells everyone that she comes from a world outside, and how the apocalypse was a lie.
Burning the witch held back the darkness. It stopped the apocalypse.
Funny how she just walks down the aisle and gets slapped and just casually keeps going. The leader says to burn her, but Rose isn't surprised by her creativity since that's her answer to everything. Rose turns to the people saying how the leader uses fear to manipulate everyone, and how they burned an innocent child. Once again, all she replies with is, burn her. Rose yells back again, and the leader at this point is so tired of the back and forth, probably losing the argument, so she just pulls out a knife and stabs her. But hey, we didn't forget about the dark Alyssa possessing her after all, right? The movie doesn't rely on it being a real death fake-out, since it lasts less than 20 seconds. The blood spills on the ground, and we see that things are getting dark. Looks like the church is no longer a safe haven, it seems. Rose starts bleeding on the ground, and seems like she might have had a little acid blood. The floor melts away, and we see a familiar sight we've been seeing through the whole movie. The leader asks what she has done, and Rose replies, the body of the real Alyssa is magically lifted up by barbed wires. I guess so she can enjoy the show here. The barbed wires grab the leader and, she has a little poetic justice fun.
And they were judged according to their deeds.
Until it splits her in half.
Down the middle in half?
Dark Alyssa also comes to enjoy the show, and like a little kid, she just kind of dances as blood rains down on her. The barbed wire grabs everyone else one by one, and even protects Rose just as she's about to get attacked. Alyssa's birth mother walks along the church aisles stepping on the blood and gore, even herself wondering what she did. But I mean, why is she so confused when she literally commanded a pyramid head to de-skin someone else? We see evil Alyssa coming up the ladder, maybe for another hug? Rose tries to hide, telling Sharon to shut her eyes, but of course, she doesn't listen. They both wake up to an empty church except Alyssa's mom, wondering why she didn't take her too. But Rose says because she's her mother, but in a very poetic fashion, taking it from her.
Mother is God in the eyes of a child.
Seems like some of that poetry ended up rubbing off on her. Sharon gives one last look as they walk off. They get to the car, and something tells her that the car will start this time. Driving by Bennett's motorcycle on the road, they get to the edge of the cliff, but this time, just with her confidence of this car starting, she decides to keep driving. And lo and behold, she is able to drive through, finally leaving Silent Hill. I love how it's shot because it's very misty, so it looks like a solid road. But here it's made ambiguous, which feels like it holds up to this day. Since our imaginations can understand, she's basically flying without looking silly. Rose tries to call her husband, thinking she's leaving a message, but when Sean Bean actually picks up the phone, he doesn't hear anything. They keep driving through the white mist, through very familiar scenery, even up until they're home. And when they're home, it just doesn't feel right. As where we cut to Sean Bean's perspective, it's very light and bright, colorful, but it seems like Rose already came to terms with the fact that they're stuck in this world a while ago. Also, take note of how greasy her hair is here. Radha Mitchell, the actress who plays Rose, didn't actually wash her hair during the entire filming of the movie, so she can keep the consistency through her adventures through Silent Hill. But, I mean, come on. The movie took 3 months to make. It's not like she actually didn't wash her hair for 3 months. That would be like even a record. Like, it's like next level unhygienic. But this is just something I found that says on the fan wiki page, so I felt like I at least had to share this fact with you. Sean Bean gets a feeling of a chill, but turns out the door was open. Which is fun, because it's like when we feel a ghost nearby, we're supposed to like feel a chill, but to him, it could just be misinterpreted to be a chill from outside. Sean Bean looks in the distance, surprised he's maybe alive at the end of this movie. The end credits roll, and it's a song from Silent Hill 3, which I didn't know until this time, since it seems so out of place from the rest of the music. Now I know there are many themes in this movie that I didn't talk about, but I'm not so much of a theory channel, at least not yet. But to quickly name them besides the obvious hell symbolism, there are themes like reality versus delusion, and the fanbase has come up with many different theories, which really goes to show how abstract the game can be with their meanings. Topics can span as wide as repressed trauma, motherhood, sacrifice, sexual abuse, or just the fact how many enemies in the Silent Hill universe have something over their eyes, or just directly being blind, either to symbolize their own sin, or to punish them because they've seen too much, or you can go on. But I'm really just here to inform you about the movie, especially if you feel like maybe I convinced you to check it out, or if you've already seen it and wanted a little reminder before going to see the new one. Well, this is my first summary on this channel. Hopefully I'll be doing many more of these if you enjoyed it, and thanks for sticking with me to the end. Let me know if you like the style, and maybe it can motivate me to make more soon. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.